and welcome to After Dark, Episode 8, The Nothing. We're having lots of fun technical stuff going on tonight, so I hope you enjoy. George is joining us from The Nothing, and only his voice is coming through. And Baird is having a nice echo going on, so she's staying muted until she's... We have to be quiet when she's not muted, otherwise you'll get the echo. Apparently we have Mark Settle's mom in the audience. I'm going to do a shout out to her. And we'll get started. George, would you like to start with an introduction for those that don't know you?
Sure, thank you. I'm the voice from Nothing. Actually, I'm George Green, founder and creator of the Lucid Living Immersive Training and Mentoring Experience. And I'm delighted to be on the panel this evening as we do battle with the nothing.
Thank you. And Baird.
Hi, I'm Baird, but people call me 80. I'm a psychology student, nearly finished with my bachelor's in psychology, which is a science. George, that's really interesting to hear about, the lucid dreaming. I just found out I have narcolepsy, which I'm hoping to become an advocate for. And I also conceived and gave birth to a chat room called the Rorschach in Tiny Chat, where we foster creativity and we try and shed light on things that people generally prefer to keep a secret. In a good way. I know that sounds terrible, but...
Let's not do any of that here tonight, shall we? And I'm Grizwald Grim. I host a show called After Dark on Friday nights on Google+. And hey, you're watching it! So, welcome everyone. And the nothing is coming. And it's coming for us all. I think I'll start with, the main reference for me is from Neverending Story, and the only thing of that show that really hasn't slipped into the nothing is the part where the rock guy, they look like such big, strong hands. So that's... Oh, you're sounding funny there, George. Why don't you talk so we can see if it's still working?
Well, what I heard you talk about was the Rock Man and the big, strong hands.
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming through then, yeah?
Yes, we're good. From what else I remember is basically the nothing was eating an imaginary land of imagination and wonderful things, and I'd like to think that the show is about adulthood eating our childhood, and the nothing is that, but the nothing eats everything. I lost my cat last weekend. And
bless your heart.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's I almost didn't. This show was almost eaten by the nothing because I didn't really feel up to having an episode, but George pestered me, and so.
Thanks, George.
And so that loss, the fact that she's gone on to the nothing, and made me do a whole lot of reflecting on the fact that we all are, and so I thought that would make a decent topic for tonight's episode.
It's appropriate if I can jump in.
Please.
Well, when I was pestering you and we were tossing ideas back and forth a couple of days ago, and I shared this with you in the green room before everything blew up on my end here, I Googled that and I went straight to the movie you referenced, and the nothing in that movie represents loss and grief. So I think in whatever way, and unconsciously, intentionally, or accidentally, having this conversation today is really connected to, I think, your loss, and also the risk we all take any and every day we get out of bed. It might be our last. We might lose a friend or a loved one, or we all may thrive and live another day, but that's a part of life, and living is loss. So I think it's appropriate. One, and two, my heart goes out to you. I'm very, very sorry for your loss, and that's it.
Okay, can I?
Please.
Bear,
Oh, I'm sorry.
run with it, Bear.
Sorry, guys. I'm actually really glad that you invited me to come in and be on this panel talking about the nothing. And thank you for sharing about losing your cat. I'm sorry about that. It's hard to lose anything, but I happen to be very interested in grief and loss, and have worked in the death care industry. And one of the most important things I think for people to remember nowadays is just, I mean, it's terrible to remember our own mortality and that of every living thing that we ever encounter and ever was and ever is. But I feel like we're becoming so institutionalized from it, with medical advancements and with, we just send people away to die, or we prolong living because of such this fear of death, because we're afraid of nothing. We're afraid of the unknown because so far there's no way for us to know what comes after life in these earthly bodies. And so we just don't talk about it. And I think that's really detrimental to each of us, psychologically, because we all become aware at some point of our own mortality. Humans are unique that way. And then that can end up driving us in ways that really detract from, I think, our living experience. So I'm glad that we're having this discussion and helping to actually start talking about those things.
Excellent.
Yeah, I very much agree, Baird. If I can jump in again,
Go ahead.
Our fear and avoidance of death and our mortality is also interwoven with this obsession with youth in our culture, and the obsession of youth is ignoring the knowledge that comes with age. And if you're stuck in the cultural meme, in as Grizz, as you call it, meat space, you're going to be enrolled in, actually, as Baird said, discarding our elders and sending them away to die, where there are cultures like the Tibetans in the Tibetan Book of Dead, where they celebrate their friends or their loved ones passing, actually in a ceremony that lasts 3 days. So I really believe there's great value in our confronting our fear and resistance of aging, and eventually of our passing. I think otherwise we're in massive denial, and it's going to show up one day anyway.
I'm into that.
Yes, the nothing is unavoidable. It's coming for us all, and we don't like to think about it.
It's coming.
And we do. When we do think about it, there's a couple different spins we can put on it. I mean, when we face our own mortality, I often find myself casting my thoughts back to like ancient people who have come and gone and have been gone for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and those lives are no less or more significant than my own. And sometimes I use my own mortality as an excuse to be like, no matter what happens, everything's going to go away eventually. I mean, I'm not even sure as a species we're going to make it off the planet. So how much weight should I let what's bothering me bother me when everything is going to fade into nothing eventually anyway? And
right.
Then there's also the angle of I'm eventually going to fade into nothing. I have to squeeze everything out I can of this moment because it's all I have. So either of you like to pick up from there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
After you.
the nothing is a lie. It's a fallacy, because we don't fade into nothing. Science and physics says that energy always exists. It always endures. It may take on a higher form or a different form, So when we shuttle off this mortal coil, I really believe, we become something else. If you're other than in the way of, being attached to spirit or a creator, there's the reality that there are molecules in us that were parts of stars, and when we return to dust, we'll get recycled somewhere else. So there is no truth to the nothing. And secondly, I like your idea of not taking things personal because of the fact that at some point, this life we know is going to end. Baird?
Oh, well, going back to what you're saying about being, grieving the loss of people, I think it's different cultures have different beliefs, and one of those, I can't remember precisely which, but I think it's Buddhist. Grief and being sad and mourning someone's loss, like, it's largely for the surviving people. It's for our sake. We're grieving and we're upset about the things that we won't get to experience with whoever's passed on. And I think that the painful part of living and then nothing, or living and then something that's just so much greater than any human capacity will ever even catch the tail of, because it's just so different. I think thank you. The painful part is not whatever comes after. I think the painful part is living. And so, as you were saying with the Tibetan people, how they celebrate for 3 days, I think that that's a pretty good way to look at it, if we get to choose how we're going to perceive it, which is celebrating that they're done suffering in ways that we know. Like, they will never again feel the pains that you feel when you're living. And life sucks, kind of. We all feel that way at some point, but it sucks and it hurts, and there's no way to be alive without hurting, because there's no black without white, there's no happiness without pain. So,
when you say that, I like to think that like every time I've ever thought about my funeral, I always wanted people to party and celebrate the life I had. But on the other hand, I don't want to deny someone their grief, because it is for them and they get to do it their own way. And honestly, it's like the really powerful emotions are what make this experience worth the ride, I think. And while grief might not be a pleasant one, it is unique and pure and powerful. I think it is problematic. Rich. I think it is problematic if people can't get out of it, and that we should, be able to offer some help to them.
And grief is, it manifests in each person and each instance and each, loved one who's moved on or hated one that's moved on so differently. I think a lot of us have heard of the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross 7 stages of grief. And those, that's a pretty good thing to look at and realize that people might be feeling angry that someone they really don't care for or someone they hated died, or feeling sad, or feeling really overjoyed that maybe like their baby didn't make it, even though they love their baby with more than every atom that makes them up. And so they don't manifest within stages, though, like, oh, they're going to be sad, and then they're going to be depressed, and then they're going to be in denial, and then bargaining. Like, it's all over the map, and there's no set amount of time for grieving. And I think, like you said, it's really important for us to try and become aware of what might happen in grieving, and that it doesn't make sense, and try and allow people to grieve in their own ways so that it doesn't hopefully become problematic, because it is for them.
Got anything, George, before I bring a comment or two in?
Yeah, it's synergistic that I was sharing what I'm about to read with someone on a call just about an hour ago, and the thing that I love about what you just said, Grizz, was that grief is pure and it's powerful, and I have found in the depths of my grieving and losing both of my parents that there was something very rich about it as well. I mean, when you really own it, rather than have an adversarial relationship or resist it, yeah, the loss, it hurts, it breaks our hearts. But it's also in that loss, there's still a part of us that celebrates the relationship we had, celebrates the memory, celebrates the fact that their legacy lives on. And I'm just going to share one paragraph here. We each and all bear our own personal scars, our burdens, and memories of pain. Who can say that they have never felt their heart hurting or their heart being broken? In between love and loss, life and death, experiencing our sadness, our grief, and our heavy hearts along the way is simply a part of our journey. But there are so many parts of our journey that don't suck, that are incredibly rich, that literally blow our hair back and pin our ears back. And it's really embracing the totality of that, the shadow and the brilliance that makes our lives enriching. Bring the comments.
Well, first I want to shout out to the people I've seen in the audience: Franklin Stone, Emin Johns, Zara Altair, Cheryl Deuce, Tim Longwell, Mark Seidel, and anybody else who's not commented. Feel free to say hello. I want to, probably because I'm a bit of a contrarian, I want to bring this one in from Cheryl. She says, "I believe we live forever through the people that we have touched, so is that really nothing?" And like I said, I want to be contrarian about that and say, like, eventually those people will go too. And like, say and 700 years ago, there was a guy, everybody that he touched has passed, and unless he made his name into history or something, he's essentially disappeared into the nothing. I mean, his parts are still, like, some of his particles may be in me, but whatever made him him has gone. So there's that, my response to that, Cheryl. And Tim Longwell had a good one I wanted to bring in. The grief you're feeling is normal at a time of loss. The hollow feeling is part of the normal process of loss. Whatever you do, you can't beat yourself up over what you're feeling. It serves no purpose other than to rob you of the joy on living. And I can't read the rest. I apologize. Comment tracker only allows me so much. Oh, hi, Joshua Foley. Now, I don't know if you guys want to stay with grief and that nothing, but we could also spin it toward the nothing in front of us, because the now we live on is like the crest of a wave. There's nothing behind us and nothing in front of us, and we have to fill the spaces in front of us with our creation. So would you like to spin it that way or stick with...
Yeah, let's pull the trigger. We've done grief. We got the t-shirt and the trophy.
Okay.
I like the nothing as an empty canvas. What's in front of us?
I think that nothing can be almost as intimidating as the nothing coming to eat us. I struggle with it almost every week, with trying to come up with what to fill this space. The nothing that exists next Friday is like already weighing on me. Do you two have similar problems with creation, or does it spring naturally? Would you like to say anything about it?
I don't know. Maybe I'm warped. I know I am, but it kind of feels like, if we're going to say that there is such a thing as nothing, then, in my opinion, then there is nothing. Just that there is nothing. That doesn't even make sense. But you know, even this moment, like with having just found out about my neurological disorder, and you know, all of the confusion about what is real and what is real only to me, um, and you know, having taken a sensation and perception class about what things are to our perception and what reality is, maybe there's just nothing. Maybe nothing is everything. But
That sounds to me like a lot of what I get out of some of the Buddhist-leaning people. I'm not going to tie it to Buddhism itself because I don't know that's accurate, but ultimately we're a blip in the nothing before and after. And a lot of people can find peace in that. I'm not one of them, but I know that a lot of people do. George, you know anything about that?
This kind of ties back into the transition of death, but the Buddhists call a particular state of transition bardo, B-A-R-D-O, and it is bardo is considered the space between when you leave your body and when you move into the next realm. But also bardo is, in a more English interpretation, is known as a liminal space. And that's the space when we move from one particular state of mind or being and we're in a state of evolution or change, there's a space where we're in sort of the empty nothing space, where we're not doing, we're simply being and waiting for the next iteration or evolution. So in that sense, a lot of us in the Western world are wildly uncomfortable with the nothing, because there's no familiar definition of self or the world. And in a way, it's considered the little death of the ego as we sort of spiral up to the next evolution of consciousness or intellect or whatever. Again, it moves into a place where people have challenges being in relationship with, whether it's just an empty still space where there is no monkey mind, or whether it's a big, empty, vast nothingness where we're no longer defined by our past. That's just me riffing.
That might answer this from Cheryl. Can you define what the nothing means to you? I'm not understanding the frame. Baird, you want to take that first? Because you said if there is nothing.
My definition is going to be very brief. The nothing is something that I have no business trying to define, because nothing is the complete absence of, and if there were a complete absence of, that means I have no idea.
I think I'd try and pin it under the lack of awareness of. Anything beyond awareness is the nothing, and then you can slip into complete lack of awareness. That would be what I considered the nothing. Like, I don't know if it's if the tree falls in the woods, but you know. Here's one from Franklin that looks good. I think it's about starting out too big. You're awesome because you're a part of that whole, not because the whole is part of you. Your wave makes the whole ocean better. That's uplifting. And
I like that.
Tim Longwell brings us, an empty canvas is a good simile for a creative mind. As an artist, I look at an empty canvas as a challenge, something to bring to life, to share my heart and vision through oil paints. We can be spun about that blank canvas and never add a new. And again, Come On Tracker gets me. So let's swing it. We got 5 minutes left. Let's swing
I'll
it
circle
back
back around.
creation.
Yeah.
Go on, George.
Yeah, I love the analogy of the blank canvas or the empty page. I'm a writer, and so I paint with words, and I have this practice. I use Google Plus as a microblogging site, and my practice is, as a writer, I get up at least a couple times a week in the morning with an idea, a picture, a word, or a title, and an empty page beyond that, and I start writing. And I mentioned this before, and I think either in after parties or shows, that it's a practice where I face my fear of just being in that spontaneous moment and embracing the empty canvas and allowing whatever that part of my eye that writes and inspires to fill that space. Sometimes it scares me, but with practice, now I've made friends with that empty canvas, and I really look forward to the opportunity to look into the empty, look into the nothing, the blank canvas, and sort of marvel at what happens when I unleash my curiosity or my creativity and my wordsmithiness upon the page.
Oh, I apologize for laughing, but something about wordsmithiness just struck me as funny. I'll take this.
It was meant to be a little funny.
Good. I'll bring this one in from Mammon Johns, and then we'll start wrapping up. But the canvas, the page are not a nothing. They are something that intrinsically invites creation. I agree.
Nice. The Black Knight.
Yes. So let's do the wrap up thing. We'll do Baird, then George, then me, and then we'll open up for the after party.
Someone else should go first, because I don't know what you mean by the wrap-up thing.
Okay, the wrap-up thing is where, like, anything you want to say before we close out, or anything you want to plug, and then...
Gotcha. This was a pleasure. This was more than a pleasure. Hey to my friends from Tiny Chat who have come here, and everybody, if you want to continue talking about really anything, feel free to head over to tinychat.com/The Rorschach, but Roar is ROARSHACK. And love After Dark.
George.
Thanks again, Grizz. Another stellar show. Pretty much pulling a rabbit out of the hat, or something out of the nothing. And other than that, I have nothing to say.
Oh, well then, let me shoot a marvelous close into the nothing. I really appreciate everyone who gathers here and gives me this opportunity to do battle with the nothing of the blank spot on a Friday night that I face every week. And if it wasn't for all of you, I wouldn't be able to do it. Your energy and your attention inspires me to pull something out of the hat. And I sincerely hope as many of you as possible will join us in the after party. I will be dropping a link in the comments. And come back next week, and I will try and do it again. So, thank you, everybody, and see you next time.